In this video, I'm going to discuss my top 5 purchasing regrets. Now, I'm not necessarily saying the top 5 items that I'm going to list are terrible products per se, but I am saying that I personally regret buying them. Generally speaking, I have a lot of equipment and I shoot a variety of different things, and a couple of these items that I purchased, I bought because I felt that it would elevate certain levels of work. But in reality, they're just not very convenient for me to use, and I just haven't bothered using them, and they just sit there collecting dust for the most part. So first off, number 5 on my list is the Atomos Ninja 5. When I started doing videography about 2.5 years ago, I really didn't have a clue of what I needed or what I didn't need, but I did see a lot of videographers out there using external monitors. Coming from a photography background also, I'm used to shooting RAW. So when I was moving over to video work, I felt maybe I needed RAW video. But that simply wasn't the case because of the style of work that I do is relatively run and gun. I generally need to have fast turnaround these types of things, so shooting standard picture profile in 10-bit color has been serving me perfectly fine. At the time when I was looking for the Atomos Ninja 5, I think it was about £500 retail. I managed to pick one up for £306 on eBay. It was actually mint condition. But the reality is, to this day, I think I've only used it twice. And that's not even to capture raw video, it was just to capture the screen captures from the back of the camera, which more recently, I've actually just been using my A10 Mini Pro for that. So currently, my Atomos Ninja 5 has been used twice since I purchased it, probably like 2.5 years ago. And it's just collecting dust. Moving on to number 4 on my list, and that is the 50mm f1.2 GM. Now, to be clear, this lens actually has amazing image quality. I love the rendition of it. I love the bokeh. I love shooting at f1.2. I actually just love the lens. A couple things though. First off, it's actually a little bit bulky, so I don't really like carrying it around too often to various different shoots. And because it's a more expensive lens and because of the way I shoot, I'm just very hurried a lot of the time. I typically rather actually use a Sigma f1.4 as my workhorse lens just to get through a job. And if something were to happen to it, it's not the biggest problem in the world. Whereas if I was shooting the f1.2 GM, I'm kind of like always very precious with it. The other thing as well why I regret buying it is because since I purchased it, it's actually depreciated quite a bit, which is surprising to me. So it's always kind of like irritated me a little bit, thinking that if I just purchased it a couple of years later, I would actually just save the couple of £100, still get to enjoy it for my personal stuff, and I wouldn't have needed it for any of my professional work. Now, number 3 on the list is going to be the Tamron 35-150 lens. It's an f2 to 2.8, and I thought I wouldn't really miss the f1.4 and the 1.8 shooting on prime lens with the 35mm f2 equivalent, which for the most part is okay for me for my event work. The trouble is when you actually start zooming out, I also do shoot an 85 f1.4 as sort of like my telephoto lens, and I do miss having that wide open aperture at the longer focal lengths. The other side of it as well, the lens is actually quite big and bulky, so I don't enjoy using it. So when I saw the specs on paper, I felt that it would work perfectly for me, but in practice, I actually felt myself preferring having 2 camera bodies with 35mm prime and an 85mm prime. I still actually have this lens with me today, despite not having used it for about a year and a half. But I do actually have a wedding that I need to go to in Croatia, which is going to be sort of like a destination wedding for me. I'm actually attending the wedding as a guest, but I am also doing the photos as a gift to the couple because they're close friends of mine. And I am actually considering just bringing this one lens as sort of like the main event lens for the day. And number 2 on the list is actually a camera strap from Holdfast. It's actually a very practical camera strap. But to be honest, the amount of comments I get on this camera strap whenever I'm at an event is actually starting to irritate me a little bit. I kind of just crack on with it and just use it for the most part. But people are always laughing like I'm a cowboy or I'm something else that I can't really say on for a YouTube video. But it's just a leather strap, and I wish I never went for the leather one. I'm pretty sure there's other manufacturers out there that make dual camera straps with, say, a bit more of a different material, kind of like similar to a seat belt. And I think that would be less sort of obvious to people and kind of like less of a target for people to sort of make comments on. As before, I still use it to this day. I bought it many years ago and I've just been cracking on with it. But it is one of those sort of things where it's always being brought up in conversation, and I just wish that I purchased a different material. So it's not necessarily the camera strap in itself, it's just the material choice that I opted for, or maybe even the color. And now number 1 on the list is actually the Nikon tilt shift lenses. I'm kind of batching these two up together because I have the 24mm tilt shift and the 85mm. When I was doing wedding photography many years ago, I was actually kind of like really looking at and idolizing Ryan Breniser's wedding photography work and using his stuff as inspiration. He popularized what he called the Breniser method, which is basically a bokeh panorama, and he was also utilizing tilt shift lenses, which actually really gave a very interesting, unique look. I also purchased a 24mm tilt shift lens because I was also doing real estate photography, and I was also thinking that this this would also elevate that type of work that I do on my day-to-day. But the reality is the 24mm tilt shaft wasn't wide enough for interior real estate. And whenever I was actually shooting an engagement shoot or a portrait shoot, having to play around with the manual focus and tweaking the tilt and the shift, it was always kind of like a bit frustrating for me. It got in the way with me interacting with the couple, and I just felt it wasn't a lens that was enjoyable to use. So if any of these items are items that you have purchased yourself, you may actually still really enjoy these products. But for me, I've actually either lost money on them or I just haven't really found a use for them. So just in closing, these 5 products individually are not bad products at all. So if any of you have purchased these products yourselves, let me know down below if you're still enjoying it. But for me personally, I purchased these items thinking that I needed them to actually get the job done or even just to elevate my work. But then through practice, I actually found that they actually kind of got in the way, or if I just wasn't really that bothered about the minuscule improvement. I am probably going to look to sell off these items at some point, maybe not the 50mm f1.2, but the rest of it can go. And to be honest, I'm actually really surprised I'm still holding on to these Nikon tilt shift lenses because I now shoot Sony. And I don't even have an adapter where I can adapt a Nikon lens to a Sony camera. But it's actually funny to think that I still actually own these Nikon tilt shift lenses because I don't actually shoot Nikon DSLR anymore, and I haven't done for at least 7 to 8 years. So those 2 lenses have literally just been collecting dust, and I've been holding on to it thinking, oh, well, they don't really depreciate. But to be honest, it's reaching a point where they are losing a lot of value on them. I've not touched them. They've just been a complete waste of money for me. So that is why it reaches my number 1 in terms of regretful purchases. I'll be interested to know if you got any regretful purchases. Let me know down below. Cheers.